Welcome to Organizational Representative Payee Overview Training. This video will provide you with an overview of organizational representative payee responsibilities and duties. For the rest of the video, we will simply use the term Rep Payee. Social Security appoints a Rep Payee when a beneficiary or recipient is incapable of managing or directing someone else to manage their own funds. This is not an easy decision as it takes away a person's right to decide how to use their own money. We expect the Rep Payee to act in the best interest of the beneficiary. That's why Social Security's preference is often to appoint a family member or a close friend, because that individual typically shows concern for the beneficiary and is in the best position to know the beneficiary's needs. When that is not possible, Social Security looks for organizations to take on this role. It's been our experience that organizations such as yours make excellent Rep Payees because you have experience working with the community, with the elderly, or with people with disabilities. Organizations often have greater knowledge about accessing other community resources and services, and they have extensive networks that help them better serve their clients. A Rep Payee is appointed to act on the behalf of the beneficiary. In plain language, this means that many financial decisions that a capable beneficiary would make become the responsibility of the Rep Payee. Let's go over these responsibilities. A Rep Payee's money management duties include determining the beneficiary's current and foreseeable needs for day-to-day living and using their funds to meet those needs, keeping records of payments received and how they are spent or saved, and saving any money left after meeting current needs. We recommend an interest-bearing savings account or United States savings bonds. Additionally, you must return to Social Security any money the person is not entitled to receive or any money that you have saved for the beneficiary when you were no longer the Rep Payee. Money that you have saved for the beneficiary will be reissued to the new payee or directly to the beneficiary. It is important to promptly report any changes or events that affect the beneficiary's eligibility or the benefit payment amounts, such as the death or marriage of a beneficiary. When you become a Rep Payee, you'll have to complete certain reports and forms, as well as assist a beneficiary or recipient with Social Security business. Every year, we will ask you to complete an accounting of how the beneficiary's payments were used. It is important that you establish a process of filling out the annual accountings as you receive them to avoid disruption to benefits. You may fill out the annual accounting forms by registering online for an account. You can find the instructions with the annual accounting form. If you are a Rep Payee for any SSI recipients, SSA may contact you annually to complete a redetermination related to SSI eligibility requirements. Additionally, you must complete any medical or work continuing disability forms so we can determine if the beneficiary or recipient is still disabled. Even though you may ask the beneficiaries to assist you with completing the form, remember, it is your responsibility as the Rep Payee to submit the completed forms. Finally, you must notify Social Security of any changes in your organization's circumstances that may affect your performance or your ability to serve as a Rep Payee. Many organizations use an off-the-shelf accounting software program that allows them to record the payments they receive for each client. With this program, they can also create a record for all disbursements that may be made for things such as rent, utilities, food, and clothing. This can also be used to keep track of things such as small amounts of cash that you give a beneficiary for discretionary spending. Social Security encourages you to keep automated records because it is helpful at the end of the year when we ask you to complete annual accounting forms or if your organization undergoes a site review conducted by the Protection and Advocacy. Keep in mind that the Department of the Treasury's Fiscal Service requires that the federal payments be made electronically. You must set up a record-keeping system that allows you to clearly identify and keep track of monthly payments received, disbursements made, and conserved funds for each beneficiary. Your record should show the reason for all disbursements and the date on which financial transactions occur. You are also required to retain records such as receipts, bank statements, and canceled checks for a minimum of 2 years. Examples of internal controls that you may put in place include, but are not limited to, a requirement for a second employee to verify bills before checks are disbursed, monthly reconciliations of bank accounts to identify outstanding checks and to ensure that all deposits have cleared. A prohibition against staff who handle bookkeeping or accounting to withdraw funds from a beneficiary's account. A limitation on the number of people with authority to withdraw funds from the beneficiary's account. A requirement for a counter signature for all disbursements. Additional safeguards for large disbursements of beneficiary funds, such as approval by an additional employee or manager when a disbursement exceeds a certain limit. Regular auditing of your organization's financial records by someone other than the employee responsible for maintaining the accounts and ledgers on a daily basis, and an annual audit by an outside contractor or entity. Also, many organizations find it helpful to develop an internal guide documenting how the organization manages funds and the duties of employees who handle beneficiary funds. We realize that factors such as staff size will factor into your decision about the safeguards you implement. Besides basic money management, Social Security encourages rep payees to help improve the lives of beneficiaries in other ways. You should regularly meet face-to-face with beneficiaries in order to discuss and create a budget and involve them as much as possible in final decisions. This includes explaining Social Security and SSI benefits, their expenses, and providing counseling on spending their money responsibly. A beneficiary's funds should be used for his or her current needs and takes priority over their past debts. We of course encourage you to help the beneficiary get medical treatment when needed. You should help the beneficiary find other benefits and services that they may need, such as food stamps or housing subsidies. You should help the beneficiary fill out applications for other needed benefits or services, or cooperate with caseworkers for other benefits. You should negotiate with landlords or other service providers to get the best possible deal for the beneficiary. Finally, Social Security encourages you to help the beneficiary file income tax returns and to be aware that the beneficiary may owe taxes on Social Security payments or may be due a refund. Additionally, if your beneficiary is a disabled child who gets SSI, you must help the child get medical treatment when necessary. A rep payee is responsible for managing funds, keeping in mind the beneficiary's best interests, but there are certain limitations as to the rep payee's authority. For example, being a rep payee does not give you the authority to make medical decisions or sign legal documents, other than Social Security documents, on behalf of the beneficiary. You do not have the legal authority to control the beneficiary's earned income pensions or any income unless it is Social Security or SSI. You can't use the beneficiary's Social Security funds for your organization's expenses or your personal expenses. You cannot put the beneficiary's funds into your account or another person's account. If an organization is a rep payee for a number of individuals, it may put the funds in one collective account, as long as the organization maintains individual records for each beneficiary's share of the account and is able to attribute any accumulated interest to each beneficiary. This is a good example of how having an automated system can be useful. If you plan to set up a collective account, you need to contact SSA for approval. If you stop serving as a rep payee, you must return the beneficiary's conserved funds. In addition, you must turn over conserved funds to a beneficiary's estate if he or she dies. Dedicated accounts are a special provision for children who receive SSI payments. You will be notified in advance if this applies to a child for whom you are a rep payee. Under this provision, certain past due benefits must be kept in a special separate account. These funds are not to be mixed with either checking or savings accounts that are used for the child's current needs. There are very specific rules for using this money, so if your organization has any questions, they should contact their local Social Security office for more details. If the beneficiary has a dedicated account, you can't use the beneficiary's dedicated account for regular, everyday living expenses. When you set up a bank account for your beneficiary's funds, you must be careful to correctly title the account. The Guide for Organizational Representative Payees has specific instructions your organization must follow to correctly title bank accounts. Very importantly, organizations should not charge beneficiaries for payee services until and unless they have been authorized by Social Security in writing to do so. Now that we've covered what you cannot do as a rep payee, let's take a look at what you must do: report changes. Social Security and SSI are separate and distinct programs for beneficiaries, and they both have different requirements for eligibility, as well as different payment dates and reporting requirements. It is important to understand the type of benefit each beneficiary or recipient receives. Social Security administers two different programs. The first, Social Security, is a program that began in 1936 and is intended to help replace a portion of earnings lost due to retirement, disability, or death of an insured worker. A worker's dependent or surviving family members may also be able to qualify for this program. For Social Security benefits, the work-based program, you must report if the beneficiary moves or dies. You will need to report if a beneficiary under full retirement age starts or stops work, even if the earnings are small. The full retirement age for anyone born after January 1st, 1960 is 67. We also need to know if a Social Security beneficiary gets a pension based on work that was not covered by Social Security, such as a pension from a state or local employer, or if a beneficiary receives railroad retirement benefits. Additionally, you will need to report if a beneficiary is confined to a jail, prison, penal institution, or correctional facility by court order for conviction of a crime, and report parole violators or beneficiaries with outstanding arrest warrants. You must also report to Social Security if the beneficiary leaves the United States for 30 days or longer, or if a non-citizen becomes a citizen or has another change in immigration status. Any marital changes must also be reported. Depending on the type of benefit received, a change in marital status may affect payment amounts or eligibility. For Social Security benefits based on disability, you must report if the beneficiary's condition improves, if a person applies for or receives workers' compensation, black lung, or public disability benefits, and if the beneficiary is offered services under the Ticket to Work program or returns to work. The second program is the Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, as most people know it, which began in 1974. This is a needs-based program for people who have limited income and resources. To be eligible for SSI, a person must be blind, disabled, or at least 65 years old. As a rep payee for an SSI recipient, you must report the recipient's death, any change in marital status, work and earnings, confinement to a public or penal institution, hospital, or nursing home, any change to immigration status, or absence from the U.S. for 30 consecutive days. Remember, SSI is based on need, so it's important to report any change in an SSI recipient's income, resources, or living arrangements. Some examples of income changes are Social Security, VA benefits, any pension or annuity, wages, or unemployment. You must also report any help with living expenses from friends or relatives, even if that help is not cash. This information is needed not only when a person starts to receive the payment, but any change in the amount of assistance after a beneficiary is receiving SSI. Unlike Social Security, for SSI recipients, you must also monitor resources such as bank accounts, the value of stocks or bonds, and report when the value exceeds $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for a couple. You must report if the beneficiary's living arrangements change. For example, any change of address, if the beneficiary moves to or from a hospital, nursing home, or other institution, or when a beneficiary separates from his or her spouse, or they begin to live together again after a separation. You must report if someone moves into or out of the beneficiary's household. When changes such as this occur, they can affect the benefit amount and possibly result in an overpayment or an underpayment. Therefore, it is very important to report changes immediately to Social Security. This is especially true when SSI payments are involved because there are strict income and resource limits, which could result in the loss of medical assistance. When you file to become a rep payee, you'll be provided with a complete list of events that need to be reported. Finally, you must contact Social Security when you can no longer be a rep payee or if a beneficiary no longer needs a rep payee. For additional reporting events and requirements, please refer to the Guide for Organizational Representative Payees. Some organizations' rep payees may collect a fee from the beneficiary for providing payee services to the beneficiary. Social Security calls these organizations fee-for-service payees. Beginning January 2021, fee-for-service payees can collect up to 10% of the monthly payment, or $45, whichever is less. If the beneficiary receives a disability benefit and Social Security determines there is evidence of a drug or alcohol condition, the maximum fee amount is 10% of the monthly payment or $84, whichever is less. The dollar amount approved for organizations to collect changes almost every year due to the cost of living adjustments. Social Security provides the information to the organizations on an annual basis. Before an organization may begin collecting a fee from the beneficiary for payee services, it must apply to do so, and SSA must authorize the fee. There are certain criteria an organization must meet in order to collect a fee. They must be a community-based, nonprofit, social service agency that is bonded and licensed, if licensing is available in the state where they serve as a payee, or the organization must be a state or local government agency with responsibilities for income maintenance, healthcare, or fiduciary responsibilities. The organization is also subject to a credit check and must be regularly serving as a rep payee for at least 5 beneficiaries and should not be a creditor of the beneficiary. There are, however, some exceptions to the creditor rule. A non-governmental organizational payee requesting to charge a fee must be community-based. To be community-based, the organization needs to meet all of the following criteria. The organization's physical business office and its beneficiaries' resident addresses are located within the same field office service area. If the organization serves beneficiaries outside its field office service area, the organization's physical business office must be within 75 miles of its beneficiaries' servicing field office. The physical business office is accessible to the public, and the organization employs at least one staff person who works in the physical business office and handles payee responsibilities. The staff must be available during normal daytime business hours to provide in-person and telephone contact with the beneficiaries they serve. The organization maintains the physical business office for the entire length of its service as a fee-for-service payee. The organization requesting permission to charge fees must provide a letter to the authorizing field office describing that it meets the community-based criteria. Some organizations have multiple branches or offices that are affiliated with a statewide or national association. Each individual branch office of the organization must apply separately for fee-for-service approval. The organization should contact Social Security to find out if they qualify to charge a fee. Before an organization can collect a fee for providing payee services, it must request and receive approval in writing from Social Security. If you are interested in this provision, contact your local Social Security office to discuss it. You'll be asked to provide your organization's Employer Identification Number, or EIN, your organization's Statement of Purpose, the area your organization serves, along with the neighborhoods, cities, and counties, the names, Social Security numbers, and resident addresses of the clients you serve. And finally, your request should include a statement indicating whether or not your organization currently charges any of its beneficiaries for its services. If your organization isn't a state or local government agency, you'll also need to include the following documents: proof of your tax-exempt status under Section 501C of the Internal Revenue Code, along with a copy of your organization's current bonding agreement with an insurance company, which covers the amount of SSA payments received for all beneficiaries served, in addition to all conserved funds, and you must also submit a copy of your current state license, certificate, or notice that allows you to provide service in the state in which you operate. Finally, a letter describing that you meet the community-based criteria. Social Security recertifies non-governmental fee-for-service payees each year. Annual certification is designed to make sure that fee-for-service organizations still meet the requirements to be allowed to collect a fee for providing rep payee services. Each year, non-governmental fee-for-service organizations have to present proof of current licensing, bonding, and that they are still serving at least 5 beneficiaries. By law, Social Security is responsible for monitoring a payee's performance. That's why almost every organizational representative payee is responsible for completing and submitting annual reports to Social Security. These reports show how your organization used the beneficiary's payments. Additionally, Representative payees are subject to on-site reviews. Currently, these on-site reviews are being conducted by Protection and Advocacy, or P&A, agencies. The P&As will meet with beneficiaries for a first-hand look at the beneficiary's general health, well-being, and living conditions. This review and monitoring program ensures that protection and advocacy groups working on behalf of Social Security visit certain REP payees regularly. The purpose of these reviews is to ensure the REP payee is carrying out their duties according to Social Security's rules. During these visits, we also review your responsibilities and determine what your organization needs from Social Security in order to perform those duties. These visits are crucial because they maintain the lines of communication between your organization and Social Security, and it gives us the opportunity to review our expectations of you. We also review your records, documenting the funds you receive and how you spent and saved the beneficiary's funds. We will also interview some of the beneficiaries about your performance as a payee. We hope that this overview helps your organization to be better prepared to carry out the duties as a REP payee. If you need additional assistance, you can contact your local Social Security office, call us at 1-800-772-1213, or visit the website at www.ssa.gov/payee. Thank you.